Hello and welcome to this webinar for mediCAD 2D. My name is Sören Haupt. I am in the product management team for mediCAD, and my focus is the mediCAD 2D application. Glad that you found your way here, and we'll start right away. I will quickly go over what we are doing today. Obviously, we're going to review the next mediCAD update 7.0.11. First, I will explain a little bit about the general strategy and goals of this update. Also highlight a few major topics in this update, and then we'll go into the actual application, of course, and go through a few modules to show the new features that are in this version. So yeah, let's move on. Let's look at this update. The mediCAD 7.0.11. So this is the last, or this probably will be the last update in the mediCAD 7.0 cycle. This is obviously for every customer of the 7.0 free of charge, so no extra cost. Once the update is live, you or probably more your IT can download the update and install it right away. Maybe not in every case right away, but in the installation with this update is also not that complicated. It's just a minor update in the 7.0 cycle, so it's a simple installation. And so the planned release date for this update is Friday, August 8th, so end of the week. And obviously, once this update goes live, we will send out another email so that you know that this can be downloaded and installed. Now, talking a little bit of what the goal for this update was, as with most of the 7.0 update, since obviously the actual 7 update was the major upgrade, the minor updates from basically 7.04 until now have minor, sometimes even major improvements, but the focus is less on new modules or new measurements, but more improvement of usability, quality of life, a few features in there that generally makes the planning and templating much easier, especially when handling with multiple when controlling multiple implant parts. So this is actually one of the bigger updates we did in the 7.0 cycle. A lot of minor improvements that or minor feedback was included that we got over the time of this upgrade, and then also some technological updates, which I also will go over in the beginning real quick. So yeah, so highlighting a few of those points, I will start with the technical stuff to get it out of the way, since not everybody here is probably interested in that. So for this we implemented the implant database with SQL 2022. This, for if anybody in IT is listening, this is also in terms of the installation pretty simple. If you already have a current version with another SQL version, you can just skip the SQL installation and just install your PV update straight away. If you obviously want to have the new database in SQL 2022, you just select this component in the setup, and then after that, it will automatically install, and the new PV will also automatically install in the new SQL. A lot more technical improvements have been made. Generally improved the implant performance and also how these implants are called up from SQL, just to guarantee a smoother or an even smoother planning than we had before. So yeah, other few major highlights or major improvements are now that are more from a technical aspect, that you can also now import user settings. So user settings are individual settings for every user. These can also now, with the new version, can be made global for your whole site. So for most of the other stuff, we will go into the actual application. So I won't highlight them here. Maybe just to look a little bit ahead, what I'm going to do now, I will go to 3 modules mainly, the main ones, with hip, knee, and osteotomy. We will go a little bit more quickly through it. The main point is obviously to cover the new functionalities, and it will probably take around 30 to 45 minutes. I try to keep it in the time so that if there are any questions after that, we also have enough time to answer those. As I mentioned before in the beginning, okay, now enough PowerPoint. Let's go into the actual application. Here, as you can see, the version 7.0.11, or you can't see yet, but we'll see pretty soon. If we go here, about mediCAD 7.0.11. Obviously, from the ground structure workflow, as I mentioned, since this is a minor update, is staying the same. The improvements are in the actual handling. of the application. So for this, we're using a demo image. We scale that image. One of the minor improvements that we cover, and I won't cover every feature improvement that is in there with the release. There will be also a full change log with every improvement, every bug fix that is in this version, but I will try to cover a lot of it. So a small improvement here is that now during the scaling mode, we can use the window leveling function right here at the top. So this allows us to change brightness and contrast for our image. I can say this is especially helpful should there be a time where you load an image and it doesn't recognize the sphere. What you can do, that obviously depends on the type of image, but if you can see, hey, maybe the place of the sphere is not really highlighted on the image, you can use the selective leveling here and change brightness and contrast for this specific part of the image that sometimes can help the automatic detection of the scaling sphere. All right, moving on. Obviously, in this case, we don't need to do anything here. We just scale, and then we will go into the actual plan. We select the body side, start with the hip joint center or cup joint center. Everything as before, 3 points. Next is the femoral shaft axis. Also same as before. Obviously, we have the option to use the automatic detection or the manual plan. Now, femur function, which uses the femur detection. I will also sometimes highlight features that are not in this specific update, but not everybody is on the latest version yet, and sometimes even people miss that there is an update there, and then they miss the actual features that are included. So I will cover also some features that might be already in the previous version. So for example, here with the detect femur function or with any image function, with the image tool, we are now able to change the opacity about image part for every image part. Obviously, this image is not cut out yet. So once it's cut out, we can basically go to the image tool right here, click on any image part, and then we can change the opacity of the image. What we can also do now, and this is new in this update, we can the context menu now also works for images. That means we can straight click on an image, go to for example, the quick move right here and move it directly, or even use the copy tool to copy it. What we can now also do with every element, and mainly obviously with images, we can now decide should the image that we move overlap or if it should be hidden behind the other images. So we can either put it in the foreground or the background. For example, now if I select the background and move it, you can see the image is the color part is behind the main image, and this also works vice versa, obviously. So we can do this with any image parts. So yeah. Next, leg length correction. Same here as before. We draw the reference line. We set the point at the lesser or the greater trochanter. And then the software will adjust our leg length difference automatically. So next is the implant. We insert in a cup. Same as before with the implant handling, at least for the cups. If you insert a single implant, same as before. We can change the sizes with the arrow keys, change the inclination angle with our left and right arrow keys, or if we want to change the size, we just use the menu either here or here. Going now to the stem, where we can look at one of the more, I would say, bigger additions to this version is now if we insert any stem and activate the function here, join with cup. So previously this was once we exit our implant mode, the stem and obviously the femur will jump to the rotation center of the cup, and we will see how then our measurements change according to our new position. With this version, if we select neck length, the software will automatically do the reposition, meaning, as you can see here, if we go through each neck length and obviously size, it will automatically do the reposition, and we'll see how our measurement changes according to our stem placement and obviously and obviously neck length that we used. And this also goes obviously for different variants of stem. So if we use one with a different CCD angle, then you can also see how for example, how our offset would change depending on what type of implant we use. So this can basically be used for every stem that has obviously a neck length on there. And this also works. If we move the stem around a little bit, you can also see it should work as well once we change the neck length again. Yeah. All right, moving on. We will now go back a few steps, or one step, and we then also will look at a little bit more about the implant handling, and we will look at modular stems. Let me see what we can use. Let's just use this one. So here with revision templates, stems that have multiple parts, obviously handling was always a little more difficult. So we really tried to improve that. As I mentioned, the German cup function is already there. We discussed it, so you can check here what type of implants you want to use, and then if you want to get the next part, you just press on the plus or puzzle button right here, and then select the second component. And then we can place the implants straight on here and change the size. Now, what we can do in this version, if we hold Control on our keyboard, we can always change back and forth between those implant parts. So here, I can go back here and, for example, change the size again to something else if I want to, and then I can also go back again to the other template and change this part again here as well. So just by holding Control, I can switch through every template, not only modular templates. I can also, for example, go to the cup right here and change the cup again. I don't need to go out of the implant menu and start the implant menu again, or go to edit to change different components. I can stay in the implant mode and then switch between those options. Next is also again has something to do with implant handling, but can be used for every element basically. So what we can do now is, or we could already do this with path update in the version 7, we can select multiple elements at once. So if we hold Shift on our keyboard and select multiple elements, we can move them together by just, once we select multiple elements, we just select the context, in the context menu, the option that we want to do, either move or copy, or even changing the color of said implants, for example. So, but what we can do now in this version is that we can select multiple templates, and then we have this option here, group items. And in this, if we click on here, we can create a group. We just give group a name. And now once we click on an element of this group, all parts of the group are selected, and we can move them straight away without having to select every template individually. And this can be we can go even a little bit further with that. We can not only use this for implants, but we can also use this for every element. So implants, measurements, as well as image parts. So if I go here, make another group, and now I select a part of the group, I can move every part around, and this group is saved for the session. So if I then want to move all the parts again, I just have to click on one of those. And again, with here, every measurement, every function that we have will update accordingly to the position that we set for the implants. And then what we can also do is we have this function at the top here, move, copy, mirror, or quick move. If we go in here, as you can see here at the bottom, we have the groups that we created before. So we can just select them from here as well, and can also see what we selected in our group. If we want to delete a group, we can just reselect the group and then go on the group symbol again, and then the group is deleted. So yeah, that's mostly done for the hip part. Just quickly, also another feature that is in there, if you then want to export it to PACS or to a planning report, what you can do also in this version is you can make screenshots of your plan. You just go to edit and go to screenshots, and then you can click one time with the left mouse button to mark an area. And as you can see, this area is then gets a screenshot, and this will be important. This will be transported to our planning report. So we can then also select here if we want to which screenshots should actually be on the report or not, and then yeah, we can make as many as we want, and then just that you can see the end result once we export it. Quickly here. So obviously this is the standard planning report, as you may know, with all the measurements. And then at the bottom, we see the screenshots that we made are listed on here as well. So this can be done now in any module, in any plan, where whenever you want, you can make screenshots now that are included in your. For one, this was obviously the PDF report, but it's also in the report that is sent to PACS as well. All right, then I don't see any questions, so we will move on and go a little bit into the knee. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to write them. We'll cover them later on. So for this feature that I show next, I will highlight a module that was included in the original version 7. It's the partial leg module, which you can use to template knees with obviously part knee images instead of a long leg image. So we'll start loading our knee image, and then we can already select the body side here, and the software will automatically detect all the reference we need, all the leg marks that we need. Just with every automatic detection, we can go through every leg marks and adjust them if we need to. And then what the software will do is, once we accept with the right mouse button, it will simulate a resection and an adjustment according to a simulated armor angle, 6 degrees, which we can then obviously adjust. As I mentioned before, that was in the original 7.0 version, but it's a good way to show the module with the next features that we will look at. For that, we will need an ML image or a lateral image. So we will load that as well. So we will plan on both orientations at the same time. This has been in mediCAD for a long time, but we improved for this version. We try to improve the process to, again, the focus of this update, to make it more user-friendly, easier to control, easier to do more in this. So let me move this here. So we need to, if you don't know this feature, you need to load 2 images. Then you need to select, for the second image that is lateral, you need to select ML, and then you accept the scaling, and then we can go into the implant part. And now if we insert an implant, as you can see here, these are inserted in both orientations at the same time. And if we change the size in one implant, if we change the size in one image, you can see it changes also in the other image as well. This is obviously already, this has been always there, but what we can do now is once we insert the tibia component, quick, like this. So now what we can do is we can now switch also, as I showed this a little bit with a stem, but this also works if we have multiple, as many components as we want, also in different orientations. We can now, what I said before, if we hold control and switch between the implants, we can also now switch in between the different variants, and the software will keep the connection between APM and ML, or between AP and lateral. So for example, if I now go back with control to my femoral component and change the size here, it also keeps changing in the AP view, and the same goes for obviously goes for our other component as well. So we can always go back and forth, even if we, let's go in here, even if we edit a template, it also should keep, again, the connection to its counterpart. So previously, if we went out of this function, basically all the connection between the implants were gone, and then we had to do each side, needed to treat each orientation individually, but now we can always go back and always change again between those different components and keep the connection between them. So this makes the whole planning in both orientations a lot easier, even with multiple components, even what I showed with like revision templates, or even components here that have more, or even knee components that have more than two. So yeah, this also works. Obviously, I showed this in the partial leg, but this also obviously works in the normal knee module, as well as the hip module as well. Okay, quick question. Is this update for 2D and 3D, or only for 2D? It is only for 2D. This update is mainly for 2D. Yeah, all the things that we will discuss here and all the improvements are in the 2D application. Next is a little bit, since we talked about the APML function, what we can do as well now. If you are owner of the mediCAD trauma module, this APML function works now also for osteosynthesis templates, so for plates, screws. I'm not sure if screws have actually both use, but for at least plates, nails, maybe just as an example here. So this, what we only had in knee and hip so far, is also now in the trauma module, and we can change both sides at the same time. This also only works in the trauma module itself. So you need the trauma module for this functionality. So let's quickly go back to go over another highlight, I guess, which is, to be honest, more relevant for the French customer base. So I will quickly cover this, since this is obviously not interesting for everybody, but we already were happy to announce our partnership with, I hope I can pronounce that correctly, RENA.COT, which is a prosthesis register in French. So every case you can plan here can be exported into this registrar with your implant information that you use for your plan. It will automatically be exported with your PACS upload, and then will be uploaded into the registrar. So okay, then we will now go into osteotomy, as I mentioned before. So again, we'll start with this hip joint center, circled by 3 points. Now, which is also a new addition in this is also for knee and osteotomy. If we draw our knee bases, the software will automatically jump to our knee bases so that we don't need to zoom in and zoom out every time we're drawing this. And same for ankle joint base. And then we obviously get the dimensions. So now we can go to select osteotomy. Another new feature here is because, especially in trainings for new user of the osteotomy tool, we get that a lot, that it's not always clear, hey, I want to do an open wedge HEO or closed wedge DFO, but I'm not actually sure what I need to do here. That is generally because what the software does is just, it needs basically information about where's the cut, where's the rotation center, and then it will basically automatically correct to 0 degree varus valgus. And depending on what is needed for that, it will do either an open wedge or closed wedge. So what we did for this version to make that a little bit more understandable, now if you set a cut and you have the, I know it's sometimes hard to read, if you have rotation center right here for the placement, you can see here, it will tell you, one, how big the wedge is, and if it's depending on position, closed or open wedge. So if you set it here, closed wedge 6 millimeters, you can see we got a closed wedge DFO osteotomy with a wedge of 6 millimeters. Another feature here is now, which is also new in this, we have more options to adjust the osteotomy. Obviously, we can move the center line or the rotation center if we want to, but we can also, this was in the previous version, set our MLDFA or MMPTA to whatever value we want to have. And what we can now do as well is we can also set our center line on a certain percentage on the knee basis. So, for example, let's go with 55%. So here, and the software automatically sets the center line at 55% of our joint bases. And obviously, that also works if we do multiple cuts. So if we want to do a double level osteotomy, we just start osteotomy again, do a second cut. Again, we have the same thing here with open wedge and closed wedge. Obviously, in this case now, we don't have much correction because we already corrected the image a little bit. I will still set the point here, and then we adjust it again. So here again, what we can do here now, again, we can use the weight bearing feature again to set the software to whatever value we want. And again, we can also, this was also in previous version, but we can always also, by holding control, switch between those two cuts and then change another cut as well if we want to. So that is possible as well. And obviously this works for for any adjustment feature that we have, setting the MMPTA or MLDFA. Also obviously moving the center line still works as well, but we obviously only adjust one cut each time, and then we can switch back and forth if we want to. Then we can apply. So I think I covered most of the features here now with these quick sessions through our modules. If you have any other questions, let me know. I will also check, because there are obviously more features if I missed anything major. But feel free to ask any questions if you want. There are a lot of minor improvements here. For example, in the line tool now, we also have the option set a set length here. So if we then draw a line here, it will always use the length that we use here. And then we can use the line tool like this. We can also, obviously this works for every line tool that we have. So even for the center line option, then we get a preview of our line. As before, we would just draw the two reference lines, and then we get the line automatically drawn. Now here we have a preview of our line. Obviously, if you use trim length, for example, let me quickly show that as well. If you use trim length in this case, it would basically just shorten the line to the distance we entered here. So that works as well. As I mentioned, it would work with every line tool, with every line option that we have. So yeah, I think I covered most of the main improvements here. Obviously, there's a lot more minor stuff, also bug fixes, as I mentioned before in the beginning. Once we release the application, you can obviously have a look at the full changelog for every improvement. So yeah, that is, and maybe if you missed it, as I mentioned in the beginning, the update is planned to release on this Friday, August 8th. So yes. Now, if you have any other questions, let me know. I already saw a question here. Is any PDF document for mediCAD measurements? If this is about the PDF report, so basically the PDF report is the report that you have here, or if you send something to PACS, that's the second image that gets sent with the PACS, besides obviously the full plan image. So if we go to one of the previous ones, you can see here, these measurements listed here will be listed in the reports. And it will be also sent to PACS automatically if you send something to PACS. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. Let me know if that was sufficient. If not, also feel free to ask again. Then I will try to answer it, obviously. All right. Yeah. So obviously, I will wait a few more minutes. If there are more questions, obviously, in the meantime, I can also quickly go over our contact info. So if you have any questions, feel free to write or call us. Free to write or call us anytime. We have multiple numbers for countries. No matter if it's a question or a request regarding, for example, training or a module that you're interested in or one of our applications, or if you have any troubles with the application or any questions, feel free to contact us. We're happy to help with every question or problem that you might have. Yes, obviously, I need to mention that for some countries, you obviously have representation, which is unfortunately not listed here because I cannot cover everything. So depending on which country you are, you can also obviously contact us directly, and we will then forward you to our representative in those countries. But obviously, if you already know who is our representative in your country, you can obviously ask them directly. So yeah, here it's mostly these numbers are covered where we have offices where you can contact us directly, but obviously for many countries we have resellers that you can get in touch with. And I also think there are you're not the only reseller or representative that we have in this webinar, obviously. So obviously, if from your side there's any feedback or also any additions, feature requests, obviously then you can. We are always happy to hear new ideas, new functionalities that we can implement. So if there's anything from your customers to receive on information, feel free to forward us to us as well. Yeah, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure. I wish you all a great day, a great evening, wherever you are, and see you guys either somewhere around or at the next webinar.